Hello my friends, I hope you're having a lovely day, and in today's video we are reviewing Snack World, the Dungeon Crawl Gold. It is a dungeon crawler, the end. Thanks for watching my review. Yeah, it's a dungeon crawler, but obviously it's a little more cutesy than something like Diablo, say. The game takes place in a kingdom that's full of different food-themed places and food puns and all kinds of food-related content. And if you listen to our podcast or you follow Go Nintendo, you know that's one of my pet peeves with games. I just don't like when games have food-based levels or food-based characters. Why? I have no idea. You think because I'm a big guy I would like food-based stuff, but I don't. I just feel, I don't know, it just turns me off. But I don't let that ruin my review or coverage of any game. I can push all that aside, and I can just tell you about the game itself, which is what I'm going to do. The game starts out with you making an avatar from picking different pieces and parts of a person, and then once the game actually starts up, it's usual RPG fare. You are a character who doesn't remember who they are or where they came from. They wound up in this weird kingdom. Thankfully, the king is okay with you being there, and he decides that he's going to make you the errand boy for his daughter, who wants a lot of stupid stuff, and she's kind of a jerk. So that's how things start off. You do these basically fetch quests, even though they're story quests for this daughter, and then she's like, I don't really care. I don't need that thing anyway. But that makes way for bigger storyline elements down the line, and obviously bigger villain battles and things like that. But, you know, regular RPG stuff, humble beginnings to grandiose adventure. It also has all the usual trappings of a dungeon crawler. You get plenty of things to wear, you get plenty of things to fight with, lots of loot to pick up. So, I mean, if you're looking for a dungeon crawler as far as mechanics go, you're definitely going to get it with this game. When it comes to weapons, you can buy new weapons, or you can make new weapons, or you can upgrade your weapons, and you can change colors of weapons, and weapons have different attributes, so some are good against some type of enemy, and some are good against another type of enemy, and you can swap them out on the fly while you're playing. You can set out like a lineup of 6 weapons, and then you can pick what ones you want to use while you're battling enemies, because it's a dungeon crawler, so it's basically an action RPG. There's no menus for fighting or anything like that. But you have like a stamina gauge, so you can only swing a weapon so many times before you run out of juice for it. And depending on what you're doing, because you have like a regular attack and a bigger attack and then a special attack, that'll eat up your stamina gauge quicker. You can use potions and things to refill that quickly, but it makes more sense to just switch between the weapons because you'll have another weapon. And it may not be the best weapon for whatever enemy you're fighting, but it'll get the job done until that stamina gauge refills. And you're never really, you're never at a point where you run out of your stamina for every single weapon because you have so many in the rotation. And thankfully, types of weapons will do more damage than others. So one guy you might waste all your stamina on with one weapon, you pull out the next weapon and it takes 2 hits and he's gone. So you're like, oh, now I know to use this. And then if you want to dive in even deeper, you can look at the specific stats of each weapon and it'll tell you exactly what it's good against, exactly what it's bad against. So there is a lot to learn, but usually when I play dungeon crawlers, I find 1 or 2 weapons that I think do a really good job, or at least a decent job against most of the enemies, and I just stick with that and level it up, which is a terrible idea. That's how I play Pokemon. I get like 1 or 2 Pokemon, usually my starter Pokemon, and I'm like, well, he's good enough to take out almost everything, and then I'll get 1 other extra one to deal with the special circumstances. So that's what I did here. It's nice to see the different type of weapons, but as long as you get I don't know, 3 of them that are really good and you level up and focus on building those, then you should be okay. Clothing is actually handled in 2 different ways. There's the usual armor that gives you protection overall and more protection against certain types of attacks or certain enemies. But then there's a trendy aspect of clothing as well. So you have accessories, your body armor, and your hat, and all those combined will have some sort of trendy rating on them. So the game has trends that change as you play, but the trend for each type of clothing stays the same. So you see whatever the overall trend is in the game, and if you have pieces of clothing that match that trend, then you can wear them and get a boost from it. It's a really neat idea, and a little something to convince you to actually go through and put together an outfit that matches up, because you'll get stat boosts, which could be the help you need to get through some of the game's dungeons. So it's not all about just like use the potions, gain experience. You can also mix and match outfits that'll give you the edge you might need to tackle something that's been giving you a lot of trouble so far. I talked a little bit about why it's called Snack World, because the whole world is themed off of snacks, and there's all kinds of snack-related jokes and some snack-related enemies. But there's actually a main gameplay mechanic that is tied to snacks, and they are called snacks. So snacks are basically, I don't know, let's call them Pokemon or yokai. It's the same damn thing. You collect snacks, which are monsters, out on the battlefield. You'll get an option to like take a picture of them, and if you take the picture correctly, then they become part of your team. And you can have, in the beginning at least, you can have one main snack and then a mini snack. I don't remember what they're called. And your main snack is out with you all the time, so they will help you attack and they'll help you do whatever else they do. The one I kept out almost the entire time was one that heals you fairly often and a decent amount, but also does attacks as well. And I'm always one that's worried about dying all the time in games, so I like something that heals me all the time, so that's why I kept it. And as you continue to use it, your bond will grow with them and you'll get more benefits. And then there's the two mini snacks, which you can call out once they are ready. And instead of like them joining your side to fight, you actually turn into them with a new health bar. So it's like a free round of attacks where you don't have to worry about actually dying. Just when that character, or I'm sorry, when that snack loses its health, then you go back to your regular avatar character. So it's great because if you're fighting a whole bunch of enemies that are really causing you trouble, and you don't want to go in and get killed, then you can, if the snack is ready, you can send it out, and or the mini snack, whichever one it is, you can send it out and do damage with that. And I didn't really use the mini snacks. God, I wish I remember what they're called, whatever they are, all that much outside of boss battles, because I don't know, this is my personal thing. I kind of feel like they're cheating. I feel bad using them. But in boss battles, it's absolutely ridiculous how much they can help out, especially if you're at a boss where you're having a lot of trouble. I'm going to show you footage of an early boss in the game where I decided to give one of the mini snacks a try, and it made a huge difference. It was a boss I had tried a few times and got close to beating it, but didn't pull it off. Also, I'm an idiot. You can obviously use potions and things like that when you play, but because I'm weird, I'm like, that's cheating. I don't want to use 5 potions. I want to go through and get the best bonuses. So instead, I would just die over and over again, which is dumb. And then eventually I was like, oh, I'll use one of these mini snacks, and it made a major difference. So yeah, don't do what I did. Actually use them and work with them, because they can be a major help. Alright, I think that's the main gist of the game. I think that's the major mechanics and all that. I want to actually talk about like how I felt about the game. It's not bad. It's not a bad game, and I can tell you I did feel the urge to go back and play. Like, I would play for one night and I'd stop, and then the next day I'd be like, oh, I want to get back in there and play some more. So that, you know, it's the dungeon crawl like pull, you know, more loot. What can you get? What can you find? What's out there? So I don't, there's other aspects about the game that I don't like, but I think the core gameplay can be fun. My problem is, one of my main problems is it's very grindy. So a lot of the missions and a lot of the side missions are like, hey, remember that place you've been to 7 times? Time to go back for an 8th, but this time it's nighttime and there's different enemies. And that just is not fun. And sometimes when you know, have to take on missions where you just get screwed over, like you can't even make it like 10 feet into a dungeon without getting destroyed. You have to go back and grind away at these earlier missions to level up, and I'm like, it just drags on you. It's just not fun for me. I know there's plenty of people who play RPGs who are cool with that, but it is not for me. The dungeons, thankfully, at least change things up because they are randomly generated. There's other parts on the map that are not randomly generated, where the types of enemies you fight and where they pop up roughly are randomly generated, but in a dungeon, yes. Each time you go into a dungeon, it is randomly generated, so you will never have the same layout, which is good for keeping you on your toes, but it can be annoying when you make some progress in one and you're like, I died and now I gotta start at the beginning. The other problem is sometimes the randomly generated dungeons are really taxing, and there's things that really grated on me. Like, sometimes you'll go in and it'll be like, just find the door and go to the next floor. And sometimes it's like, hit 3 buttons and the map is huge. And you're like, oh my god, where the hell are these buttons? Or sometimes it's, here's the door, but you gotta find the key. And the key is inside one enemy. And you have to wander around the whole thing to find the one enemy that's got the key and then make your way back. And the worst part is there's these invisible tiles. There's invisible things in all the dungeons that'll like sometimes they just hurt you and sometimes they make it hard for you to walk. But the worst one is the one that clears your mini-map, because you'll wander around and find the door, then you'll spend another 10 minutes trying to find out where the damn key is. You get the key, and then you hit one of these tiles by accident because it's invisible, and you lose the map. Or you haven't even found the key yet, and you're still wandering around trying to figure out where you've been, and then you hit one of these tiles and the whole map is gone. Like, that's just not fun. You can see them when you're up close to them, but when you've been running around in a dungeon for 15 plus minutes looking for this damn key, you're holding the run button, so you might run right over one by accident. It just gets frustrating, because like I said, the core mechanic of fighting the enemies, and leveling up and gaining experience, that's why dungeon crawlers are still around. That is still fun, that is engaging here, but there's little things that happen along the way that just detract from the fun that you have. Another thing I want to complain about is, and I hope this is true because I went through the settings a million times and I tried to find an explanation or a way to change it and I couldn't, so I might be dumb and I might have missed it, but I think I've played enough games to hunt down this solution if there is one. The camera in the game, unless in very certain circumstances, like boss battles, will not let you rotate it 360 degrees. You can turn it, oh man, I guess I would say half of that, maybe a little more than half of that. You can rotate it all to the left for a while and then it stops, and to the right for a while and then it stops. And that means more often than not, especially when you're in dungeons, you can't get an angle that works for you. So you'll fight enemies and they'll be blocked by a wall or something like that. You'll be trying to see what's down a hallway and the camera won't turn that direction, so you have to just blind faith it and go. You can get some sort of angle on it, but it's not going to be the one you want. I'm terrified that there is a way to fix that, and I just couldn't find it. I put a lot of time into this game, so if it is in there, then you can just negate this whole thing. But for my playthrough, oh my god, there were so many times where I was like, just let me turn the damn camera so I can see where I want to go or what's coming up. I don't understand why that was done. I can't figure out a reason for why they decided to lock the camera at certain perspectives. Because it's annoying. It gets very annoying, and it was a constant issue for me. Moving away from the gameplay, back to story, because I said there was something I really wanted to talk about with story, and it's something that surprised me. So Snack World, the Dungeon Crawl Gold, is rated teen. And even with that rating, I think most people look at this game and they expect something that's more younger kid friendly, just based on what the game looks like and what you can see of the designs and everything like that. I mean, I certainly felt that way. But having played the game, it's way more risque than I thought it would be, and it's kind of jarring because I don't know. I guess really the issue is it doesn't fit with what I was expecting, and it doesn't make me mad or anything like that. It's just that, you know, there's a lot of jokes in there that are adult oriented, and they are not said outright, but it's pretty close to outright. And I would imagine there's going to be plenty of younger kids who are interested in that game. And normally you would say, well, I guess stuff like that would fly over their head, but still, it's surprising to see some of the stuff that's in there. And at that, it's bad jokes too, just stuff that's groan-worthy, not stuff that you're gonna chuckle at. It's just stuff you see, and you're like, ugh. There's also some moments where I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. There's like discussions certain characters have, and it just makes me feel uneasy. I'm like, I don't know about this, and unfortunately, the writing in general just isn't very good. It's a level 5, in my opinion, loves to talk in their games, and they fill them with dialogue. I feel like that's been a big part of a lot of their games, especially in the Yokai Watch series, and that is going on here as well, and it just seems to go on forever. And if you're like me, there is a fast forward button, but you're afraid you're going to miss something important, so you're like, well, I don't want to use that. The only time I use it is when I've already seen dialogue and like I've died and I'm starting something again, so that way I can just skip it. But I sit there, go through the dialogue, and I'm like, oh, these are bad jokes. These are groan-worthy. This is not an interesting story. Like they do like little cutaway scenes, usually at the end of a mission. That's supposed to be like, you know, a humorous tie-up to what just happened. Except I can't think of any time where I read something I was like, yeah, that's funny. You're just like, oh, please get this over with. So the story just didn't do it for me. And I want to stress it has nothing to do with the food puns or anything like that, or the food-based world. Just overall, I felt it was uninteresting writing and dialogue. And there's also the fact that the game curses a bit more than I thought. There's some, well, I mean, not major curses. You know, you'll see people say ass, and you'll see people say, trying to think of what else. But there were a few times that popped up where I was like, oh, just, again, it's rated teen, so I guess it's my fault for thinking differently of the game. But just overall, the whole written experience is just, I don't know, it just doesn't flow. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't jive with what I'm seeing on screen. Snack World, the Dungeon Crawl Gold is an interesting game. I don't know how I feel about it. I guess the best thing I can say is something I already said. I did feel compelled to go back and play it, and I don't know if that's for completion's sake, or I don't know if that was because I was legitimately having fun and was interested in seeing what came next, or if I just, you know, had the satisfaction of leveling up a character. I don't know. But I did like going back to it, but I also kind of dreaded it too because of the things that I said. Lots of mechanics in the dungeons that annoyed me. I'm not a big fan of grinding in games in general, but I won't hold that against the game because it's part of the genre. The writing was a lot to suffer through. Just, I don't know. It's not I want to say it's not the game for me. But I did have fun playing it. Maybe I had to be in the right mood for it. It's not a bad game. I will say it's not a bad game, but there's a lot that can be fixed up. A few tweaks in the gameplay could make a huge difference, and the writing, I guess, is my biggest gripe because it's just so boring. I really got nothing out of it. But, like, the presentation is charming. I know it's not the most sophisticated visually, but it is very charming. Very colorful. I like the look of it. I like the designs of characters. The soundtrack is great. Another thing that you usually get in level 5 games, they have great orchestral music, and there's some, electronic music in there too. But great soundtrack overall. So there's things to like. It's just not, you know, it's not a home run, to use sports terminology, because I'm a big sports guy. It's something. It might be way better if you were to play multiplayer, but like I said, this is a single-player review because I didn't have the opportunity to review multiplayer. So, if you were thinking about getting into it with friends, any game is better with friends, so that might be the case here. It could be substantially better, but as far as single-player, there's certainly a wealth of content to play, and a ton of things to do, and a ton of stuff to collect, and a lot of things to see, but, I don't know. I don't know if you're going to want to do them all. This is a tough one. I had fun with the game. I will say that. Didn't have a great time, but I had fun. Alright, my friends, that's today's video. Thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, and commenting. It's very much appreciated. Also, a huge thank you to those of you who support me on Patreon. It helps me do things like this video review and other video content, the podcast, the website, social media. It really does help, so thank you very much for your support. If you want to learn more about the Patreon, which is just $1, you can check out a link in the description below. But that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with something as long as I have something interesting to show you. So until then, have a lovely day and a lovely evening, and I'll see you in a few short hours.